So yes, last time we had seen this, customer Scrum roles. There are three as mentioned in the Agile Scrum, templates or methodology or mindset, whatever you want to refer to. So we have a product owner who is basically kind of client side senior guy who initiates the idea of a product, project, solution, whatever it may be. Scrum Master is our leader within our team who basically leads the daily scrum meet, retrospective, sprint meetings, and all those things. Okay, so there are three ceremonies as we normally call it: sprint planning meet, sprint retrospective meet, and daily scrum meet. Daily scrum meet is basically check out what have been done till today, whatever we're going to do today, and if there are any obstacles. So Scrum Master lead these meetings. Product owner was supposed to present for these things, but there are some challenges like he or she might be busy, so might not be available, all the time to take out all these, what you can say, questions, queries. So we normally, a product owner, suggest a representative who normally will be participating in this meeting. So Scrum Master coordinate with him and the product owner as per the need arises. Then the others are Scrum team members. So Scrum team members have the designers, the architects, the developers, the actual on what you can say production line workers and all those things. So everybody else is under Scrum team. But overall, when you try to understand it, practicability of it, we also add user as an end customer, which might not be the product owner. So there are colleagues of product owners who basically uh, are responsible of using this system. This can be a kind of end user, or this can be kind of user specified by the product owner. Again, these are normally nominated by product owner in normal circumstances, and we normally coordinate with them. Is it the right way to function the system? Could we improve it in any way, and so on and so forth. And then stakeholders. Stakeholders are basically these are kind of product sponsors, or you can say many product owner in many in certain cases, which are basically very interested in the product outcome. Stakeholder definition also includes developers, the end users, and everything. But in a scenario of validating requirement, prioritizing requirement, we use stakeholder or a team of stakeholder. You might nominate, or you might call it steering committee and all those things. So there are good number of names which are given to the stakeholder. But here we are referring to the stakeholder which are attached to your project on daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever it may be. Again, these are all basically included in the contract. So who are our stakeholder who are basically going to vouch for your completeness, vouch for your correct implementation of functionality or the thought process we have initiated. And then of course we have a project manager. Project manager is a guy who starts with the project in terms of responsibility, in terms of arranging the analyst, in terms of arranging the designers, arranging the meet, and each and every facilitated thing. Like Scrum Master also does that thing, but overall, in terms of client coordination, in terms of budgetary responsibility, in terms of new resource requisitions, and all such logistical arranges, including the responsibility of budgeting or escalation, matrix handling is done by project manager. Again, it's a kind of unsung hero, or the heroes which are not mentioned in terms of agile or agility thought process. But still, we have a project manager nowadays, so that business people can coordinate with a single person. In case of any difficulties or any data they are looking for. So project managers' responsibility is also updating the data in the organizational IT system. You might call it MIS. So it's like management information system, which is normally a kind of standard, software where you normally post your data of your progress, any change in your strategy, the risk mitigations, the risk meeting, auditory reviews, and all those things. So MIS is basically handled by the project manager. Okay. Any questions so far?
No.
We are good, right? Now let's try to understand. Oh, come on. Now let's try to understand how do you move forward in terms of how do we initiate the business? How do you get whole ball rolling in terms of product development, project development, or any maintenance support or anything for that matter? So how do you start these things, right? So let's try to understand the steps. A normal product owner who have an idea of a product or a project, right? he shares this idea with a team of senior people, saying, hey, we should have an HR system in our organization, so that all these data which is normally collected in islands could be coagulated, could be concised in a single system, and also clubbed with the MIS of the company, so that we know, in case of our St. Louis office, in case of New York office, who all are even being kind of moved from one office to another for deputation for 1 days, 2 days, or basically permanently, and so on and so forth. Their leave tracking, their in time, out time, and an overall efficiency of employees as well. So that's how the product owner initiate an idea within let's say client office or client top bosses. Then client top bosses say, yes, this is really right. So how much we can spend? We can send X number of dollars for these idea. Okay. So now product owner, normally let's call it client, let's call it client representative, contact a friend, say, hey friend, I believe you have an IT development company. uh, could you please come and visit us, because I have an idea of HR system to be built for our offices, and we have these 3 4 system working from so many years. You might call them legacy system, you might call them older system, which have their own way of managing data, or keeping islands of data one way or another. So I want a unified system throughout our organizations. Could you understand the requirements, sir? It's a simple
Yep.
example, right? So this is how it starts. Then that IT company sends 1 2 3 4 guys. Let's say sends 2 guys specifically. One is a project manager, another is an analyst, a business analyst, data analyst like us, which go there supporting project manager. So what we discuss in the meeting, we normally record those things in minutes of meeting. And nowadays, even audio recording of the meeting or video recording of the meeting is a normal phenomenon. So we of course, with all those due permission of the client and all, record these things. Okay. Now these record is normally a initial requirement gathering. So a business and let's say VPHR or a senior business person initiates an idea of a product, solution, support, maintenance, whatever it may be, and we as an IT company go there, visit there, try to collect it. And these are just the initial requirement gathering. That's how we label it. Okay, so you can call it initial understanding of solution, product, whatever it may be, to be developed, to be updated, integrated, and so on and so forth. In latter stage, we build a list of tasks to be completed and each task time. Now we are coming here a planning and scheduling of it, or a kind of requirement list building. Then we trying to assign when we can complete which are the requirements, and also let's say that analyst and a project manager goes to a client and gets 100 requirements. I'm just throwing a number which is coming out of my coming to my mind. He those 2 guys got 100 requirements, and then they come to our place. They discuss these things with other team members, saying, okay, we need to complete this 100 requirement. Let's try to understand how we could develop these things. So first 6 requirement could be done in first week, then 7, then might be 8, and so on and so forth. So we can plan and schedule these things, again depending upon the priority. We work with a product owner or a team of product owners, as it may be. We normally plan this thing, and this is what we call project plan. These tasks list on priority order. So which are the clients need earlier will be on the top, bottom, and so on and so forth. This can be as simple as Excel sheet. This can be as complicated as Microsoft Plan or a Jira. You normally include these list of requirements somewhere in software, Excel sheet, whatever the organizational quality process or standard procedures for such scenarios. This part is building the project backlog or having a requirement list which is prioritized, and this gets updated on daily basis in our daily Scrum meet, and also in a sprint retrospective or sprint planning as well. This is called project backlog in the Scrum team format. So sprint project backlog is a list of requirement with a priority attached, and most of the time schedule also attached. Does that make sense, sir?
Yes.
Sure. This is done by determining what should be done, which are the less critical, which are more complicated, dependent, in a given time frame should be considered for this sprint, that sprint, and so on and so forth. So we build a schedule and a timeline for this development to be done, planned, and all. Using the above steps, start work with the highest priority item, the first, and find the how to achieve them. If there are any dependency, we might shift from one sprint to another. As a agility, the prime importance here is of flexibility. So we work with the client on daily basis. We work with the product owner on a daily basis, and Scrum Master normally prioritizes this requirement on a daily basis. We review the priority on the daily basis. The product owner and team make a daily sprint to check the task progress and clarify changes. The sprint, as we say, can be a day, can be a week, max can be a month. We normally discuss this thing with the client, sprint review meeting, retrospective meeting, where we try to reprioritize them. We try to check whatever we have completed is in line with the requirement. So are we working in line with the client, and so on and so forth. So there are lesser and lesser chances of failure. That's how we adopted the agile sprint as our project methodology, project mindset. Does that make sense, sir?
Yep.
I know it's a bit complicated. This is at the level of project manager level, but still, as an analyst, we should understand it at least. Nobody's going to ask you in terms of how the project manager is going to plan the sprint, and so on and so forth. But still, as a Scrum Master, as an analyst, I should be able to reprioritize, or I should be able to explain to somebody who's asking how to reprioritize tasks, or what do you can make sure the project is a success, because every team member has a great amount of interest in that project to be completed, right? If the project gets completed, the company earns some profit, and we basically progress, so on and so forth. Okay, we'll try to understand what is a business and all those things in this thing. Any question for me on these slides, on these information we've discussed?
No.
Let's move on. Now, these are taken from the Wikipedia requirement analysis. So what is the requirement analysis? This is a kind of first step. When I say this project manager and analyst go to a client to understand idea, to understand vision, scope, we might call them scope document, business requirement document, and so on and so forth. So what do we basically gather? Might be in the audio, video, or the minutes of meeting document, and so on and so forth. We normally process it to build a functional requirement specification or functional requirement document. That's an output of this requirement analysis. So we have a result in mind right now, and we are walking towards it. Okay, so the process is requirement analysis. We might visit them again. Normally, we normally visit them once, and then we plan Zoom call, Google Meet, and all the online calls, so that you don't have to really spend time in moving from point A to point B, or going from point A to point B, and we can have all those stakeholders at a meeting and discuss whatever confusion, prioritize change, implementation details, and all those things in those online meeting nowadays. Now here we have 4 boxes. So we have requirement analysis box, we have system analysis and control, or we can call them system requirement specification, or SRS, and we have functional analysis allocation, that's our FRS or FRD, and then the design synthesis. So FRS includes this design synthesis, or the architectural layout, or the design blueprint for a given software, for a given even building bridge material, constructing a house, and so on and so forth. And that could be output. So FRS, FRD is a standard terminology used in the IT world, and now this is used in everywhere else wherever we normally follow Scrum. Okay, so this is not just limited to IT nowadays; it's generalized overall. So as an requirement analyst, as a business analyst, we should know the FRS and FRD. Okay, so this is a document which comes as an output of a requirement analysis process. Now, how do we do it? Any questions on these?
No.
Okay. Now, normally the word used in collecting a requirement is called requirement elicitation. This is a process of gathering and defining the requirement for a software system. Let's say somebody wants an HR system. Now, HR system is a software, right? We are going to develop. Now in this, there could be n number of software included, like the attendance. Even we can include salary processing, we can include the parking allocations and all those things. Even we can include the physical surveillance videos as well. Again, you don't have any limits of which functionality can include in the given software or exclude in the given software. Depends on the client, depends on the need of the business, and so on. So, okay. Now, the feasibility, understanding requirement of HR system. So we need to build an HR system. So we can give a name of the project called HR system for such and such client. That can be named. Now, what is requirement elicitation? We normally elicit the requirement. We normally explain the requirement and the feasibility. So description and feasibility comes in elicitation. The goal of requirement ensures that the software development process is based on a clear and comprehensive understanding of the customer needs and requirement, which also includes the priority. For a clarification, I have added this 4 step in requirement elicitation. Again, there could be 5 steps, there could be 6 steps. It's for understanding. So we normally identify stakeholders. Stakeholder means who are my product owner. Are there one product owner who is driving the whole thing, or there are a number of product owners who will take part in a decision making process? So that's kind of identifying the stakeholders. Then gathering the requirement. So what are the process I am following? Minutes of meeting, audio file, video file, or conference recording, whatnot. So there should be a system. So what type of system I have adopted? Prioritize requirement. How do I prioritize requirement? Is it sprint to sprint basis? Is it in the daily sprint? Normally, we align ourselves to the business, and to build a flexibility, we have a kind of sprint to sprint prioritization or reprioritization process. Why not daily? Because it's complicated. Number of things like daily spillover, some dependency delays, and blah blah things. So normally we reprioritize the requirement on every sprint planning meet. Again, there could be daily scrum meet. We change priorities depending upon however you have adopted the process. Wherever you're working on, these things do happen. And then we categorize the feasibility. Could it be done right away? Are there any dependencies? Let's say you are, implementing fingerprint sensor for attendance. You know fingerprint sensor, right? You put the finger and the attendance get recorded. Normally, name, employee number, and time in, time out to a nanosecond. It's get recorded. Have you seen fingerprint sensor, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is how we categorize. Now, what is feasibility? How efficient you want fingerprint sensor? There are, let's say, 4 doors to your office. One front, one back, one side, one parking, underground, and all those things. So all on the four doors, you implement these fingerprint sensor. It's a small machine. You normally stick it to the door. So whenever you put a finger on it, and if you're registered with the system, the door opens. If it's not, the system beeps, and some guard comes. Hey, you're not, allowed in the system because now you're not registered here. Might be an employee from New York office coming to St. Louis. If he puts his or her finger, he's normally not allowed because he's not registered to that office, right? This is a local system. If you have a uniform cloud-based system and all, then any office member working at New York office can enter to the St. Louis office with his thumbprint. And there could be some restriction also in some financial area where we keep cash, costly items, and all, or very critical assets. There could be 3 or 4 persons who have access to that. So even if you are registered with the organizations, you might be not allowed to that area of office. It can be a single room, single floor, depending upon the criticality of assets, or the business understanding of criticality of assets, and so on and so forth. So here we categorize the feasibility, we categorize the performance requirement, or you can say non-functional requirement also, which are also included in the functional requirement list. Wherever whatever we need to do for the client is included. So you can say whenever you ask for a detailing of a software, we normally ask for functional requirement specification. Even nowadays, if you're building a ceiling fan, if you're building a typical computer, you normally have an FRS. If you're building a cybersecurity system, you normally have an FRS for that. And that's a normal practice today, which includes all the functionality we have discussed, we have rejected and why we have rejected, we have prioritized, why we have prioritized, we have deprioritized, why, and so on and so forth, which are implemented, which are not implemented. So you might say FRS, FRD is a Bible for a given product, Bible for a given software solution, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense, sir?
Yes.
This is really important because there are a good number of questions asked even in an interview saying ki, so what do you think is the output of a business requirement? You might say list of requirement. If you are really versed with the IT terminology, you can say functional requirements specification or system requirement specification. So these three are the typical answers. But what I would really like to work on functional requirement specification as an output of a requirement stage, which includes the list of requirements, the priorities, the planning, scheduling, the different architecture diagrams or blueprints, and whatever discussions we have, or at least a reference to those. So where I kept my audio files, video conferencing files, and all those things are referred or are normally stored in these functional requirement specification. So it can be a reference document and it can be a kind of static document also. Again, depending upon the organizations you work for, their adopted quality processes and so on. So, okay, could we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So here, let's try to understand what are the techniques we use. Now, these are important because this is a normally asked question to analysts. How do you do requirement elicitation? How do you do requirement analysis? So there are these number of tools we use. We go, we speak to them. This is like an interview. So what I do, I prepare a list of questions to be asked to a given, product owner, stakeholder, client, user, depending upon the target audience. I normally build a list of questions. You go visit them, or you call them to meet you, or you meet at a median point. Might be a park, cafe, coffee day, Pizza Hut, whatnot, or a hotel, bar, whatever it may be, and you interview them. Let's not go into the definition of interviews or discussions, but try to understand the functionality or the output of it. What I normally, do this interview for: collecting information, clearing the doubts, reprioritization, and so on and so forth. So these are kind of interviewing techniques is a part of requirement elicitation or requirement gathering. Then brainstorming session. Let's say I have a list of requirement. I have 100 requirements listed. Let's say prioritize also. But there are some confusion or there are some what you can say conflict or even scheduling challenge. Let's say I have a 20 developers. I have a 20 workers who go to do certain things, and clients want to get things done like yesterday. And that's a normal scenario. Believe me, everybody wants to get the things yesterday. But whenever you plan these things, you'll understand these many hands I have at work, and these are the things I can be completed in such and such days. Normal thought process, right? Even if you're cooking a dinner, there could be one or two people. If there are so many people cooking dinner, then the dinner gets spoiled or nobody knows who's the other person is doing. So I normally have one or two people who cooks dinner for me. And for that, I have, or might have already collected whatever the requirements needed for my dinner, right? And so we normally collect this thing. But still, if you have a challenge, yes, you sit together with a cook or cooks and try to understand if I want some, specific item in my dinner or lunch, I normally discuss it proactively. And these discussions are normally referred as a brainstorming session. Why brainstorming? Because I might not know the complete, scenario. If I want to make a pasta, and if I'm not Italian, I'm an American, and I want a pasta, there are around 300 or different pasta. You know the pasta, right? There's a flat pasta, there's a curved pasta, there's a different designs and so on and so forth. So if you really search on a Google, what are the different pasta I have? There are so many pasta available. Might be content, might be the flexibility, might be the design, the look and feel, and the smell, the aroma, and blah 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 things. So if you want to make a pasta, the cook might have a question to you: which pasta do you want? And yes, there are a number of different pasta available, which are available in your market. That's also constraint, right? because nobody is going to go to France or Italy to get a specific pasta. It will take time. So if you want to wait for so many days, so many hours, then it's okay. But otherwise, whatever you have available in your kitchen, in your nearest store, or wherever you procure your grocery and so on and so forth. So how do you solve these things? By brainstorming. In a similar scenario, in HR system, I might have a question to the team of stakeholders saying, do you want to include attendance management in these? Do you want to include the payroll in these? Do you want to include the budgetary requirement of the in-office canteen? There are canteens within our office for coffee, tea, some muffins, some bagels, some donuts and all those things. We have, in quite a few software companies, in quite a few, even police stations for that matter. We have these type of canteens which are available, which are free to use for the employee. Again, this is the employee welfare skill. So how much funds we are allocating to that? Could we increase that indefinitely? No, because business to be run for a given profit, for a given margin, and we normally have so much, what you can say, things which we can spend on social welfare. Again, these all come down to the business maturity, the business owner or the top management initiative which are implemented for social welfare of the employees. So how do you come to these things? You normally sit with the top management and say, hey, top management, could we have a better coffee machine? Because this coffee machine takes half an hour to get me a coffee. There are machines where while leaving office, I normally program it to start, giving me coffee early in the morning. If I reach office by, let's say, 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m., also on so forth. Again, these are all have a cost attached to it. These are all have a priority attached to it. These are all have a system planning attached to it. When I say I want a better coffee machine, will it happen in a minute? No. We need to get those things sanctions approved. Even we need to compare with the other priorities which are there already listed, already coming from bottom to top, and so on. So all these things we normally discuss during these brainstorming sessions. These are a kind of discussion sessions where all these ideas are recorded, the action item to be allocated to a person, roles, so on and so forth, and the priority also attached with that, with compared to the other task. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Then facilitated application specification technique. Now we are trying to document these interviews, brainstorming in a single document, and that's what we can call system requirement specification or functional requirement specification, or you can just call it as a requirement list as well as a layman. But as a what you can say practicing analyst, I might refer to as a system requirement specification or functional requirement specification. So here I document all these things, whatever we have discussed, whatever we are assigned as an action, and then we normally facilitate to other team members, say that, hey, this is all discussed. So these are some changes in our development. We have to implement these things. Now the next point, quality function deployment. What is quality? Could you, what do you understand by when I say quality?
We can say that simply quality of the product, that how good it is.
Okay, how good it is. Okay, good. That's a really good answer that way. But quality in terms of a product is normally measured at various heads are already allocated to that performance.
Yeah, everything have a depend ones. Like if you goes to cosmetic, they have a lot of qualities check. If you
Exactly.
goes to iron, they have a lot of qualities checks like strength of the product, and we can say that in the sunscreen, how long it's gonna stay, it's not sticky, or it's we can say that it's totally fulfilled with the requirements which we are making while we are making something on that time.
Great. So you understand quality. So that's how we normally have a quality function development. So even if you build an HR system, an HR system built for a company might not be the same as the HR system built for another company, because these companies' requirements are different from the other company's requirements. This
Yep.
company might be into, let's say, car rental. This company might be into the car insurance. So their requirement is bit different. Even if for something like some common functionalized HR system, one company might include the attendance into the HR. Well, attendance is normally HR, things, but the car parking allotment, all right? One company might include a car parking allotment into HR system. Other might have a separate system for car parking, or they might outsource the car parking to a vendor. And these things do happen in a real life as well. But the quality is how useful the system is to the company. Are they really saving any cost? Are they reducing the cost? And so on. And that's how we normally try to understand the quality or the acceptability or the satisfaction of a given person. Now here there are separate quality requirement, or the you might call it as a performance requirement also considered for these better system, better solution, better support, and all those things. Okay, so that's why quality function deployment or quality functions requirements are also included in our FRS, SRS documents. Then we have a use case approach. Now this is a modern approach. We have considered use case or user story approach. Nowadays we normally go with the user story approach. So what do you do? You normally convert this requirement into a user stories. So what are user story? A user tries to understand what he needs to do with the system and how to do it with the system. We'll understand user story in a couple of slides, but still try to understand these are kind of requirements detailed up to nth level, so that the user understand what you're building for him or her, the stakeholder understand what you building for him or her, the product owner signs up on it. Okay, yeah, you understand whatever I said to you in terms of requirement. And this is how you collect these requirements, right? So these are the latest modern approach. You can have a use case. We're going to have a hands-on workshop on use case as well as user story, because this is a really need of the hour for a given business analyst to understand, to build a use case from a requirement, to build a user story from a requirement is a need of the hour. Okay, so this is how we do it. Any questions so far on these things?
No.
Okay, there could be many number of tools in requirement gathering. As I say, somebody might say my audio recording is my tool in requirement elicitation. My conferencing software like Zoom, like Google Meet, these are also a kind of tool of requirement gathering. But these are the categories you can say right now. We could understand these are the 5 categories which are prominent in terms of requirement gathering or requirement elicitation techniques. Okay, let me move on. Now, okay, let's try to understand when it comes to gather requirement, right? In good old days, everybody used to gather requirement in their own linguistic, cultural, and depending upon their educations, they used to collect requirement. In the modern world, we use a kind of unified architectural thought process called unified modeling language. Again, unified is common for all the software companies. They've adopted this approach, and nowadays all the other domains like even constructions, the automobile industry, the NASA's of the world, the FBI's of the world, they all accepted this unified modeling language as a unified architectural language, unified design language. This language consists of symbols and various drawings and design. And as normally the philosophy say, one image, one drawing can include thousands and thousands of sentences. And that's what we have concluded here, to use a unified modeling language, unified architectural language, unified design language as a UML. It's normally called as UML whenever you discuss with the interviewer, whenever we discuss within our business meetings and so on and so forth. So UML is a visual modeling language used to create diagram that help visualize, specify, construct, and document software system. This is a bit of older slide, so I might have say software system. Here, I might have to include the solution, maintenance, and all the other requirement as well. So nowadays, for all requirement analysis, I use UML. Okay. It's not a programming language itself, but rather a standard way to represent software making in an easier to understand and communicate complex system. We're going to learn these things. Okay, we're going to learn a couple of diagrams, their usage, their implementation, and how we could do it. It's not that difficult, believe me, and it's matured over last 100 odd years. So we are, zeroing on this thing for quite a good time. It's easy, believe me. Use cases are the technique for capturing, modeling, specifying the requirements of a system. As we are on the topic of requirement, we'll first understand what is use case or use case diagrams. It's a normally 2 or 3 figures we utilize in these diagrams, not more than that. It's a simplified requirement visualization technique. And you can use many software. You can use pen paper, you can use Microsoft Word, you can use Google Office or Google Works as normally they referred. You can use Visio, and there are a good number of tools which are just specified in UML diagramming techniques. A use case corresponds to a set of behavior that a system may perform in interaction with its actors. So here we are talking about actors or users interacting with the system, whatever we are going to develop. Let's consider a use case of an employee entering an office with the HR system which we have developed. So what should happen? A user and an employee entering office, put his finger, thumb, this, that, or whatever fingers is recorded with the system, put it on the fingerprint reader. The fingerprint reader says, displays there. There's a small LCD screen normally, which displays Ravindra Pande, employee number, and date, time. And these three entities or number of entities as programmed in that goes to the database saying, okay, Ravindra Pande entered with this employee number, entered the office 5:32, so many seconds, so many milliseconds, and so on and so forth. And this is how it got recorded. So the doors opens for him and he enters the office. This is a normal use case or an interaction of a user with the system. So my HR systems records the attendance of the Ravindra Pande. This is a user story I'm going to talk about. So could you understand what is use case, user story, and the interaction of actor with the system?
Yep.
Easy enough, right? I know it's a bit complicated for a non-IT person, but this should be, make life easier because I'm also giving you the example as well. A use case corresponds to a set of behaviors that the system may perform in an interaction with its actors and which produces or an observable result that contributes to its goal. So my goal is to collect a data when Ravindra Pande entered the office yesterday, day before yesterday, or what on a specified date and all. So that's my goal, to record attendance. That's my HR system is doing. But the user story is Ravindra, whenever enters the office, we should get his name, employee number, and the time he entered and which door. Again, depending upon the HR system, my goals might be a bit different. So my data points might be a bit different. These are data points, right? Ravindra's name, Ravindra employee number, the date, time, and the door. Depending upon requirement of an office, you might not have the door number recorded, you might not have the employee number recorded, and so on and so forth, or you might have just the employee number and the date time recorded. But again, the reference is required to collect the data which is used after so many used by so many system afterwards, like the attendance system, leave system, payroll system, and there could be n number of systems, but these are the prime system which are going to use the attendance of Ravindra Pande to a given office. Actor represent the role that a human or the users which are interacting with the system or other system which I have had in the interaction. Okay, what are the other systems? This system called a clock. So that time is coming from a system called clock, right? The finger is given by Ravindra. So I say Ravindra, employee number. And when it comes to recording, and normally the system checks with the other system called clock and get the local time. Again, now I'm trying to understand the other system instruction. I might record in a local time. I might record in the GMT time. I might record in the EST or CDT, whatever time my system is programmed to. Again, different offices will have a different requirement. And so I apply those requirements. I apply those user needs to my system. And that's how I build the use case. And it's a simple thing. I can, draw this diagram with the use case diagram within a minute. But let's try to understand what I'm doing and then how I'll do it. That's a simple. In the requirement analysis, at their identification, a use case is named according to a specific user goal. So here, an employee. So Ravindra is my employee, or whatever I am, using as a user goal that we present for its primary actor. So Ravindra is my primary actor interacting with the system. Clock is my secondary actor, which is supplying some data to my system. So Ravindra, I'll put it on the left side. Clock, my system is in the middle. Ravindra is like human sticky figure. My system is a rectangular blocks and secondary actor, which is internally supplying data to my system. It's a kind of clock. I might display it on the right screen. Not a requirement, but I can. Okay. So primary actor and a system. Simple enough use case diagram. Could you understand use case diagram? An actor interacting with the system. Actor is a sticky figure, human figure, and the system is a rectangular. Simple enough, sir?
Yes.
The case is further detailed with a textual description or with additional graphical models that explain general sequence of activities and events. This is a simple case I have seen. There could be a complex scenario. Like whenever Ravindra enters, he might be working in a HR department. He might be working in a software department. They have similar access rights. They have applicable access right for a given role for a given person, and so the use case might include these things as well. The case is further detailed with a textual description or with an additional graphical models, depending upon the adaptability per practice adopted by the given company. There could be a bit of difference that explain the general sequence of activities or events as well as variants such as special conditions, exceptions, and errors situations. So these are all can be included thing or optional thing which can include in the use case diagram. Any questions so far on these?
No.
Okay, listen. Now, actor use case. Ravindra Pande, I might mention registered or unregistered user. He might, register his attendance or edit an article. Here, we were discussing a case of a reporter reporting a news to an online system, and that's how an actor, a reporter, which is a registered user, so he have his he or she have his username and password, and then he might edit an article, he might insert a new article, and so on and so forth. So that's why this use case. So my actor is shown in this sticky human figure. My use case is shown in this oval box. The arrow depicts the process, and there is a rectangle out of this oval box, which includes the total system. So like that, I might have 20 different use cases. I might have 100 different use cases, depending upon organization's adoption of procedures and policies. Okay, easy enough. Could you draw
Yeah.
an use case of employee, marking his or her attendance? Could you able to draw use case diagram for that?
Yeah, we can, but we don't need it, right?
Great. Now let me, show you a video. I'll stop the recording. This is really great video. I'll pause. So a normal homework is basically let's create a use case diagram for a HR system. Okay, simple enough. Could you do that?
Yep.
Okay, I'll share these things basically, the slides, and also we can make a reference to that as well. Okay, now let's try to understand this use case diagram a step further. Here we have a customer. There's a mistake. Time should be shifted on the right hand side in this system. Okay, so this is what I normally share with these things, like a customer search item, place order, obtain help. This for a typical, I think, hotel or order placing scenario for a given daily or for a given hotel or something like that. Okay, Again, payment, submit taxes, tax authorities, and additional thing. So it's kind of yearly, taxation form submission to tax authority, a scheduler job, which is normally shown here. In the first release, we are just building catalog, search for items, or place the order. These are the prime priority given in my first release. In my second release, I might have a opt-in help. So there will be a customer voice support system, or to call some waiter, or to discuss with something which type of order you have, and all those kind of scenario. And the last one is a kind of parallel thing we are adding optionally to this system called submit taxes online, and those kind of scenario. Okay. Again, it's a thing which we normally discuss in our normal business analyst class. Okay. Now let's try to understand user story also, because this is the latest what you can say, business analysis tool we use on day-to-day basis. So user story. In Scrum, user stories are the way of capturing product requirements from the user perspective. Okay. So here the user perspectives, users understandings, user priority are the most important things we are going to consider here. They are short, informal description of a feature or a functionality written from the user point of view. And they serve as the smallest unit of work in a given project. User stories are used to communicate needs and exceptions and goals, as they help the team to understand what needs to be done, what needs to be built, and why. Is it simple enough to understand?
Mhm.
Or is it difficult? Do you have any question or confusion right now?
No.
We are good now. So this is how we're going to build this user story. A user story is an informal general exception of a software written from the perspective of an end user. Again, my main focus is on the end user. Its purpose to articulate how a software feature will provide a value to a customer. So value addition and priority setting and satisfaction is all linked together in this user story. And that's why user story is a current hot topic for architectural designing as of today. Even it's a kind of step ahead of a use case story. But yes, use case or user use case is a kind of prime importance, because use case gives you an idea of priorities, different alternative paths, the inclusion, the exclusion, and those n number of factors there. The user story is simplistically for a non-technical explanation of a requirement, considering user as a main stakeholder. A key component of agile software development is putting people first, and this is a principle as we've learned in our agile Scrum introduction. So putting people first resolves with the user story, puts the end user at the center of the conversation. These user stories are non-technical language. Again, we are trying to exclude technicalities, and that's why it's a non-technical language, and to provide context for the development team and their efforts. After reading a user story, the team knows why they are building and what they are building and what it values to create. Okay, so this is a kind of user, simple enough. Don't worry, don't think too much. It's a simple enough explanation of a requirement to a user. Now user story, simple thing. As a person, I want to do this thing and I get the result. Like Ravindra wants to register his attendance. So whenever an employee called Ravindra wants to enter into office, he'll put his finger and his attendance get registered. So that's how Ravindra sees utilization of a HR system. Simple enough.
Yeah.
The other examples are, as a max, I want to invite my friend so that we can enjoy the service together. You might be going to a hotel, might be going to a theme park, and so on and so forth. As a Sasha, I want to organize my work so that I can feel more in control. So I need to do a planning, scheduling, whatnot. But I'm keeping that excluded from this user story. As a manager, I want to able to understand my colleagues' progress so I can be better report to our success and failures. Again, these are all simplistic user story. Okay, I don't want to complicate the whole further, so let's stop here. You do you have any questions on user story?
No, 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 no questions.
Not right now. Okay, I can understand that. And I'll revise the user story and use case diagram again in our next session. But I believe, this is enough for today. Okay, and just try to build a use case diagram or user story for an HR system. Like you are developing an HR system for whatever company you might have visited, you might have, worked in. Try to build, a use case diagram and couple of user stories. Does that simple enough for you? Will that
Yes.
be simple enough for you, sir?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, so try to this. This is really great. Believe me, this will give you means if you start understanding use case diagram or a user story, you can utilize this in your day-to-day life as well. And we'll discuss this thing on the next time so that we know how to implement these things and go further and further. These are one of the two most important tools as of requirement gathering as of today. Well, of course, after the list of requirements. Okay.
Okay.
So, could we stop here today?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Sure. Thanks a lot for your time. And I'll share the recording as well. Okay. Thank you. You have a good
Good day,
night.
sir.
Bye bye.
You too. Good day, sir. Bye.